Like this?
Yeah.
This is good?
Yeah. Okay. Hello everyone, and thank you very much for the organizers. I'm very happy to be here today to present part of my work. As Piero said, I am art historian. Actually now I'm in UC Berkeley doing a postdoc research on the history of astronomy. That is my topic. But today I'm not going to talk about my academic work, and instead I'm going to present a project I'm doing in parallel to it. It's called Through the Skies, and it's about art history and cosmology. And it is so because we are a team of 3 people. Apart from me, you can see on the left Jaime Forero. He is astrophysicist. Currently is a professor of physics and astronomy in the Los Andes University in Bogota, Colombia. And on the right, you can see Yoon-Chul Kim, a Korean artist based in Berlin. So, as you can imagine, we have very different profiles. Jaime is working in galaxy formation and simulations of, in cosmology. This is an example of the stuff he is doing. It's a simulation of the structure of the universe as understood by cosmology today. This is actually only dark matter, but it's here represented. An example of the type of work he was doing at the moment we meet is this work. So you can see, I cannot explain every example because I don't have much time. But as you can see, he is working with art and technology. And already here is actually hardly to see, but this is a big tube filled of ferrofluids, very simple. And he already started to work with fluids. In this case, as I said, very simply ferrofluids. And I'm mentioning it because the work with fluids has played a very important role in the work we have done. And about myself, well, I am researching the representation of the universe in Western countries from the 17th century, late 16th century until today. This is an example taken from my dissertation for my PhD. It's a representation of the universe in the late 17th century in Paris, France. And I'm going to play a video as an example of the kind of motivation we had at the beginning. I mean, this is an expo. At least I have a picture so I can talk about it. I wanted to show you an experiment. It's not done by us, but I wanted to show it as an example, as an illustration of the motivation we had. In the video, well, you can find it actually very easily on YouTube. You can see these 3 metronomes that have a very different dynamics, each of them, but since they are standing on an unstable surface, they start to communicate among each other so that they evolve from a chaotic system into a perfect synchronization. So this is the type of work we wanted to do. Also, starting from our very different backgrounds, how to create a common space that with shared contents. So, of course, there are also some ingredients that allow this collaboration, and it wasn't a total chaotic system at the beginning. For instance, Jaime and me were collaborating sometimes in the past. We were giving lectures together and writing some papers together. This is an example of the latest test we wrote, and it's going actually to be published these days on a book. And also the relationship with of Yoon-Chul with science was very particular. I mean, he didn't have any training at all in sciences, but he's working with physical principles of physics and chemistry, basically by experimenting by himself in the lab and a kind of autodidactic process. So, as an example, I have here this work made by Yoon-Chul. It's called triaxial pillars, and are 3 glass tubes, 3 cylinders that contain inside other cylinders, and it's filled with fluids, substances that he mixed and produced by himself. Everything, all the process is made by him, even the objects themselves. And so the point is that the inner cylinder is rotating so that the fluids are also rotating and trigger, because because they have metal particles and pigments and so on, and it triggers, it has electricity and magnets, so it triggers these special patterns that you can observe. And so he was doing this kind of work without having any idea what is going on in science. And when we started the project and we visited scientific institutes and so on, we discovered, he and us discovered that actually it's a setup very similar to what scientists are doing in scientific labs, in concrete in the so-called magneto-aerodynamic field within physics. And this is what an example of these experiments doing in scientific labs. It's again 3 cylinders that contain 3 cylinders inside and are rotating and are with these magnetized fluids that rotate, and so they can research the hydrodynamics of these, what they call a Taylor-Couette flow. So I'm telling this to you to show that, okay, we have different backgrounds, but still there were some hints that make us think, okay, maybe we can do a collaboration together. So we started to meet in Berlin in 2011, and we were meeting in different places of the city, visiting the Institute of Astrophysics in Potsdam, working in the atelier of Junschul, or cafes and all around the city. And this is actually another video, but I'm not going to try to play it. And this is, well, I hope I can explain it so good that you can understand what is going on. And this is to show what kind of contents or what kind of concepts we were discussing. In this case, it's a simulation of the evolution of the universe from the very beginning. In the very beginning of the video, and that reflects the very beginning of the universe, the distribution of matter is very homogeneous. And then with the passing of time, it's evolving and evolving. Here is in the middle of this evolution, until creating the filamentary structure that has the universe, at least this is the assumption of the current theoretical model of the universe at present. Well, in this case, it's only a simulation of dark matter, so it's kind of similar of the one slides I showed you before. So, on the one hand, we were discussing about scientific ideas, scientific concepts, sharing different perspectives and different notions around it, but not only science. We were also talking about different artists from the past, from the present. I'm a historian, so I was bringing historical references, both from astronomers and from artists. And it's difficult to summarize what was going on in this exchange of materials and references. On the one hand, we can say, okay, we were discussing about scientific, about specific concepts, ideas, and related to our own disciplines, but also we were in a kind of meta level discussing the methodologies of our respective disciplines. And it was actually very important. This kind of discussions was actually very important in the meetings. And well, I show you here one example of thousands of examples I could show. This is well, maybe probably you know, but this is the representation of the system of vortices by René Descartes, 16th century in France, France, Amsterdam. And this is a simulation of a dark matter halo, a contemporary simulation. So, and I bring it to you to tell that maybe the first or one of the biggest motivation that in particular Junschul and me had with respect to cosmology is that in cosmology in the past and nowadays there are many unknowns, many fields that we don't have any scientific data. We don't know even if they really exist, but still they play a major role, and they are at the very center of the physical models, of the cosmological models. So this realm that for scientists they call this theoretical realm, we can also think about the realm of the imagination, is what was very attractive, especially attractive for Junschul and me to approach this kind of field, this field. So after this exchange of experiences, we produced an exhibition that was shown last year in Berlin in the Sharing Foundation. And this is a view of the exhibition. Here you can see the pillars I showed you before. And there were, well, several pieces. I cannot extend in explaining all the pieces. This is, for instance, a big format pencil drawing. This is another view of the exhibition. I hope I can show you a video of this, of the main piece at the end of the presentation, because if not, I think you won't understand anything at all about what is the work we were doing. And this is easier to show. And another example is electrochemical drawings, and they are created very shortly by spreading some substances that also are prepared by Yunshul with different pigments and particles, and with a pencil made of metal that also he produced. He is applying electricity and playing with the bolts, and according to the bolts, this electricity triggers chemical reactions, and so the forms, the colors is actually very important in texture, emerge. So this is the kind of approach of Yunshul with respect to fluids. And we not only organize this exhibition, but also other events, such as a symposium in the Academy of Sciences and Humanities in Berlin, and we invited several personalities from the arts and sciences. For instance, here you can see Zielinski from Media Art Theory, or Volker Springel, very important cosmology in the field of simulations. And, well, we also organize a concert, public talks, and we publish a book. You can, I bring like 5 or 6 exemplars, so if you are interested, you can just take one. And I'm very happy to give you as a present. And, I hope I can show the video at the very last part of the presentation. But before that, I'd like to mention 3 points that for us are very important as a group. And first, we don't aim at just organizing exhibitions, art exhibitions. And the reason is because we as a group understand that the dynamic we are creating in this heterogeneous group is very important, and if we only do art exhibition, it's only Yunshul who is telling to the world, so to say, how he's interpreting the kind of work we are doing. So we have other 2 members in the group, and we need also diverse formats, not to give a unidirectional vision of the work we are doing. So we have text, we have concepts, we have debates, and so on. And first, on one side, for this reason I told you, but also for exploring different ways we can produce out of this collaboration we are creating. Second aspect I'd like to stress is that we avoid very expressly creating scientific visualizations. We are working in an interdisciplinary group. There is an artist, there is a cosmologist there, but we don't want to, when people go to the exhibition, a typical question is, okay, where is the scientific idea behind this piece of art? And we want to distance how do you say? I don't know how to say it in English, but we want to avoid this kind of approach. Because it's supposed, for us, it's like a relation like one-to-one from art and science, and very linear, how do you say? Well, a relationship, but we want to create another thing. Also, taking very seriously the aspect of art, and not only using art in the service of science, but also letting art be itself without being a translator, or so to say, of scientific ideas. And the third aspect, and last, is that for us it's also crucial not only producing this kind of events and this kind of outcomes, but also integrating in our respective works what we learn after this collaboration. And this is not so visible for the public, but for us it's very important. For instance, Yunshul changed radically the way he's doing art after the collaboration, because he was using science, so to say, more a kind of intuition or intuitively, And since he is integrating more and more like really serious scientific discourses, so he's changing the methodology, the way he's approaching the concepts, and so on. For me, well, I am art historian working on astronomy, so working directly with artists and astrophysicists gives me also another complete perspective on my historical and academic work. And in the case of Jaime, it's also so. And I want to stress this because, you know, the Art and Science project usually, most commonly, is a kind of scientist, or this ideal structure is a kind of scientist that owns the high knowledge and is throwing some interesting ideas to the artist who is very curious and then makes some pretty or interesting works based or inspiring these ideas. And what we want to do is like equilibrate these three poles actually, and not only having an influence in the scientists over the artists, but also on the other way. And actually my work and the work by Yunshul is having a very important influence in the way Jaime is making science, not only because he has diversified the formats of his work. He's now doing, this is an example of a social artistic project he's currently doing in Bogota, in Colombia. But also the way he's teaching physics to his students has changed, the way he's trying to approach the scientific problems. I mean, at the end you will see, for instance, a scientific paper, and maybe you don't realize, but for him, the personal experience and how he's transmitting science, what is he doing with science, and etc., has also been dramatically altered after the collaboration. And maybe, I don't know if I can manage to play the video so that you can understand much better the kind of work we are also promoting. And